Seed has now developed 3 to 4 sets of leaves. It's got a nice root system in the bigger rockwool block. At that point it's ready to be transferred into your system, which basically means you have to get your system ready to receive them. Now, you have the medium, which are clay pebbles. Clay pebbles, through transit and the original process of the manufacture of them, they end up quite dirty, quite dusty. Ideally you want to get rid of all the grit, all the dust, all the debris before putting them into the pods themselves. Now, easy way to do that is simply stab some holes using a big screwdriver into the bottom of them, hose pipe on the top in your garden for at least half an hour. If you can, the longer you do it for, the better. The more dirt, the more grit, the more debris you get off of the pebbles, the better off the pH stability is going to be in your tank. If you haven't got a garden, obviously you've got to use the messy method, which means take it into the shower, open the top up, stick some holes in and shower it, or even stick it in your bath and sieve them out. It is fundamental you do wash the clay, otherwise you end up with a hell of a sediment on the bottom, and every time you disturb the sediment it can alter the pH, which is not what you need. So, wash the clay thoroughly. Once the clay has been washed absolutely thoroughly, it's ready to go into the system. Before putting it in the system, make sure that the grommets, which are in between the pipes, are snugly sat in place. Sometimes in transit these grommets can come out. Now, if you don't have the grommets in place and you put the pebbles in, the pebbles can get down the pipes and it can cause all sorts of troubles with the flood and drain cycle. So just make a quick check that the grommets are in the pipes. If all the grommets are in the pipes, then fill up the pods with the pebbles. If they're not, find the grommets and put them in the right place. Okay, so we've checked the grommets are there, the pebbles are washed, the pebbles then go in the top of the tank onto the pods themselves. You really want to fill them up to the level of the overflow pipe, okay, which will be approximately about 12 litres of clay pebbles. Now I'm just going to put these out of the way. Now, pods are full with pebbles which have been washed. We're then ready to fill the reservoir up with water. Now, a 4-pod reservoir holds approximately 45 litres of water. Now, these are independently housed reservoirs, which means that you can fill it up with a bucket or you can fill it up with a hose. They don't need to be plumbed in. So you'd fill the reservoir up to 45 litres of water. We recommend filling to the overflow pipes. At that point, you've got enough space. If you need to adjust up and down with water to dilute the solution, you can do so. Okay, we've washed the clay pebbles, we've checked the grommets are in place, we've filled the pods up with clay to the overflow pipes. Now, we've filled the reservoir up with approximately 45 litres of water. We've then got a pump. The pump connects directly to the downpipe inside the reservoir. It's a submergible pump. Okay? A lot of people don't realise that, ironically, but that's the way it works underneath the water. So what we have is the flow pipe attaches directly to the top of the pump, and the pump sits in the bottom of the water tank. Now, once that's done, you can then test the flood and drain cycles, and it's worth doing this because the bigger the pod system you use, the more time you need to flood the system. On a 4-pod, it should take approximately 1 minute to flood the entire 4 pods. On an 8-pod, it should take approximately 3, sometimes it takes 4. On a 12-pod, it can take 4, sometimes 5 minutes. On a bigger system where it's using outer runs, you can add another minute on because the outer runs have more pipe, which means you need more time to do the flood and drain. What we always recommend doing is an acid test. Basically get the pump in the water, then turn the pump on. Time how long it takes to wet your finger. Put your finger approximately 1 inch beneath the clay pebble surface and physically time how long it takes before your finger becomes wet. It's a very easy acid test to do, but that will give you the precise time you need to do a flood and drain cycle. So, we've got the water in, we've turned the pump on, we're timing how long it takes, and we've discovered it takes 1 minute on a 4-pod. But do test it yourself just to confirm it. Assuming it takes 1 minute to flood the entire system, you then have to program your digital timer. Now this is possibly the hardest bit of the whole equation, is programming one of these little beasties. They're very similar to programming VCR recorders, from 10 years ago, where you have to put the time in, the date in, you then have to program it to come on and off. It does come with full instructions, and if you persevere with them you will understand it. However, we are only a phone call away and we don't mind being questioned about it because we're used to it now. They are not too hard once you get your head around it. But quite simply, what you have to do is, if the 4-pod is taking 1 minute to flood, let's say our light cycle's turning on at 9 o'clock in the morning, then what we would also want is our pump cycle to coincide with it, to turn on at 9 o'clock in the morning. So at 9 o'clock the pump turns on and you program that into your timer, and then at 1 minute past 9 you've programmed to turn the pump off. What we recommend doing on a system of this design, be it a 4-pod, an 8-pod, a 16-pod or a 24-pod, is to flood the system every 3 hours. Every 3 hours until your programs have run out. It should do it basically 24 hours a day. Now, the system only really needs, or the plants only need, water during the lighting cycle. However, we've found that flooding and draining at night does no harm to the plants. However, it does stop the tank from stagnating. It gets oxygen into the water. It keeps the water in motion. The more the water is in motion, the more alive it is. So program your timer to come on every 3 hours for the desired amount of time. And the way you find that desired amount of time out is putting your finger in the system 1 inch beneath the pebbles and timing how long it takes before your finger becomes wet. Just to recap, on a 4-pod it should take 1 minute, on an 8-pod it should take 3 minutes, on a 12-pod it should take 4 to 5 minutes, and if you've got a 16 or a 24-pod that employs outer runs, you want to add another minute on to the outer run. And that's basically how you flood and drain the system, but you do have to turn it on and turn it off, otherwise you end up turning your pod system into a deep trough NFT and you lose the benefit of the flood and drain cycles.